This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so before actually going into the concepts, let me just give the agenda of this training, basically what all I'm going to cover or what you can expect from this training. So before I was covering basics of Java, like all the OOPS concepts, but most of the people are from computer science background or they have done masters or bachelors in this areas. So they are familiar with at least one language and covering for 3-4 days or a week, it was just extending the training. So most of the consultancies wants to finish up in 4 to 5 weeks. So that's why I cut short with Java. I'm no longer teaching it. But I'll share you, what all you have to get to know in Java, all the concepts. I'll share you this presentation and, some good tutorials where you can learn Java and also the questions that you can expect in the interviews. So for Android, since we use Java as the programming language, they concentrate on questions on Java as well. So when you take interviews, they just don't ask about Android, they also ask about Java. So I'll give you some set of questions that you can expect. Basically, you can just prepare them whenever you're taking an interview. So that will be helpful. So that way I'll help out with Java. The next thing is every day we're going to have a concept in Android. So I'll teach you about the concept and also we'll discuss code samples. So my training is going to be a little different to what you have experienced before. I just don't like copy pasting the code. So I'll write it from scratch so that way you can understand it very clearly what I'm doing and what the output is. So it'll be very clear. Then every concept that we discuss in a day, I'll give you an assignment, some similar to it. And these assignments, I don't want you to turn up by sending the zip files or like that. What we will do is we will discuss about version control system. So that's what we use in the real times. So whenever you're working with a group of people, we usually push our code to a version control, and anybody who wants to take the code, they'll just pull the code and they can view the code. So that's what I'm going to teach. I'll teach you the tool for about a day, and I want you to send out the assignments using that tool. So that way, when you work on your real projects, it will be very easy to work with. Then after every few days on whatever topics that we have discussed, I'll send you the interview questions that you can expect on those topics. So since it's been almost 4.5 years that I've been training and also taking interviews, so I know, what topics they concentrate or what questions they ask. So I have all of them listed, so I can help you out with those questions. Then if you guys are really interested, I'll give you some ideas to do, projects on Android so that you can have it in your resumes and also you'll get a good practice. And I'll show you how to publish apps. So you can publish these projects, as apps. And I'll also show you the ways if you're interested to earn money from the apps, basically ads. I was talking to Madhu yesterday, so he should be already familiar with it. So I'll show you how you can have ads and how you can publish the app with ads and earn some sort of money. So that is there. And at the end of the training, I'm going to show my work environment. So what all tools that we use, how is our code base, and what you can expect when you join a project. And yeah, the complete demo of real-time project will be given. So this is what I'm going to do for about 4 to 5 weeks starting today. And we are going to have class from Monday to Friday, 1 hour. So exception this week, I'm actually traveling from Friday to next Friday. So your consultancy people asked me to at least start off and give an idea about the training. That's why I've started now. So today and tomorrow we'll have the class from 8:30 to 9:30. But once I'm back from the trip, we'll have it from 9:30 to 10:30. Does that time work for you guys?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so 9:30 to 10:30 and Monday to Friday. Since we have 1 week gap to start the actual classes. So what I want you guys to do is, read Java, just the basics enough. Once you're comfortable with the basics, then we can start off, without any problem, Android programming. Does this sound
And
good?
yeah, and you're gonna share that Java materials, ma'am?
Yeah. So after this class, I'll show you all the Java links and all that, so you can go through. And again, whatever I'm sharing is not limited to it. You can always browse online and get to know about many things in Java and also Android. Okay, and
Yeah.
any questions, any point of time during the training, you can always ask me. The sessions can be interactive. Even if I don't know, I'll try to search and let you know. That will be a learning for me as well. So that way all of us can improve.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So that is about the training. And for today, what we will do is, before even starting off programming with Android, first let's know what exactly Android is. Because what you know might be just 1% or 2% of the knowledge, but there's a lot to know about Android. So today what we will do is, today and tomorrow, we will cover all of these topics listed. Excuse me. So we'll see, web apps and mobile apps, how they're different, and then the two competitors in the market, Android and iOS. So how they're different, what you can expect from each market, and how which one is in demand or how they're different in technology wise. So we'll see that, and then we'll go into the history, what exactly Android is, when was it started, when did Google acquire. So we'll see all of this. Then every year, Android releases a version, a new version. So we'll see the different versions that we have got and what every version brings us. Then architecture. So you can expect that in the interviews. What's the Android architecture? Can you explain more about it? So all of those questions. So we'll discuss about them. Then DVM and ART, which is the main component to understand how the application is installed and how an application APK file is created. So we'll see that significance, and then I'll show you how you can download the IDE, which is Android Studio that we have got, and what all you can see in the Android Studio. Sounds good?
Yes.
Okay. So we will start our class now. Again, at any point of time, if I'm going very fast or if you're not able to understand, please stop me. I can repeat it, no problem at all. Okay. If you feel bored also, you can just stop me. We can talk on some other topic and then we can come back to this.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So let's start about seeing how web apps and mobile apps are different. Um, So, back from 95 when they've got internet and, when slowly every company has been started using internet and all that, they started developing web applications. So basically these applications will help in giving the web content. You can see every company's, whatever services, products they provide, and also anything that runs on the internet is basically a web application. So that was a trend back then, like around 20 years back. But slowly when mobile phones have started and the evolution has happened, then mobile apps have come into picture. So for smartphones, you need apps. Whatever apps that you're using in the mobile phones are basically applications developed by developers. So we will see how web applications are slightly different from mobile applications, even though both give us the same content. They're slightly different in the way that you develop and in the way they are available. So we'll see that now. In the web applications, they're universal access. What I mean here is, suppose if you have a device, irrespective of any device, it could be any phone, a personal computer or a laptop or a tablet, whichever device it is. Now, if you wanted to browse a web app, basically a website, for example, if you have a browser with internet connection, so obviously you can browse that particular URL and you can have the entire content ready and you can read it. So for a web URL, all you need is an internet connection, a web browser, and it could be any device. You can browse the entire content. So it's universal access in that way. Wherever you go, if you just have the internet connection, you can just browse the entire content. It's very easy that way. We'll see how this point is slightly different for mobile apps a little later. Then automatic updates. So whenever you are trying to browse a web URL, that means you're actually browsing the content that is there in the server. For a server to communicate, you need internet connection. That's how the communication is happening between you and the server by just browsing through the URL. Now, as an end user, you never worry about the updates that the URL provides. All you need is you just hit the URL and you see the latest content. So there is no need for you to worry, okay, when is the application going to give us the new content? When I'm supposed to look at the new content, there's no need to worry about it. All you have to do is just, refresh the browser and you see the latest content whenever it's available. So as an end user, it's very easy to get the updates from the web app. So that way it's very easy for the updates. Then you've got a lot of tools. You guys are already into HTML and CSS. You must be knowing that there are a lot of technical languages, scripting languages that you can use and develop a website. It's a combination of too many things. You can use jQuery, AngularJS, you can use PHP, HTML, CSS, and you can use even the database concepts also into it, and you can develop a web app. So there are a lot of tools involved in developing a web application. Well-established tools, there are a lot of them, and you can use them. Back then, like this point, I would say the disadvantage point, it is a very old point. This is no longer true today. The weak GUI controls, GUI stands for graphical user interface. So back then we were having very limited user interface controls, but today with the jQuery and AngularJS and all of these, there are a lot of UI controls and you can develop the websites very attractive and with high performance. So I wouldn't agree with this point today. Then you cannot interact with all the local resources. So if it is a device like a phone or a tablet, you can access all the resources of your device. That means you can make phone calls, you can do text messages, you can navigate from one location to other location, you can have the local databases in the applications. So there are so many things that you can do with the smartphones or smart devices, which is not all possible with a web application. So for example, web apps, not all of the applications will allow you to make phone calls. You cannot have local database because web means itself that it is from the server. You cannot have local information. If you have local, then it will be visible only to you. So usually you cannot interact with all the resources like you do with the smart devices. So that is a little limitation there, and inefficient communication. So here, whatever the advantage was, universal access, but here you need internet connection. But if the same thing, how many ever devices you have, you know the URL, you have the browser, you have everything, but if you don't have the internet connection, that's all. You cannot browse the web app. So it's that's one of the drawback when compared to mobile apps. I'll tell you this point again when we are in mobile apps. Then web apps are hard to write. When I say this, that means for beginners, for people who are new to programming, it might be very difficult for them to become a web developer immediately because they have to know the combination of all of these languages, and to write and to be experienced, it will definitely take a lot more time than being a mobile developer. So it's hard to write when compared to mobile app developer. Then usually web applications are developed for large displays. What I mean with this point is they're only for laptops, personal computers, where you can browse the entire content very easily. But if the same web app is responsive, then you can use it on any device. I'm sure you guys must be knowing responsive design. But let me show again how different it is. So for example, if you take Facebook, just close this. So here, if you see, this is like my laptop screen, and you're able to see the entire screen with the browser. So now I'll just change this size of the browser. So if you see here, I'm just changing. So this is, say, for example, 12-inch or 10-inch tablet. Then this is, say, 9-inch, 7-inch tablet. And this is the device, mobile device screen size. If you see, as I keep changing, the website didn't change. It is still as it is. Now, if I wanted to log in, for example, I have to scroll all the way to the right, enter the password and all that. Something if I wanted to see on the left side, I have to scroll all the way to the right, sorry, to the left, and view the content. So that means this website is not a responsive website. This is specifically designed for large displays. Now, if the same facebook.com, if you give it in your mobile phones, it'll be hard to, browse the content in a small device. I'll show you what's the example of responsive then. Open Salesforce. This is just one example. So Salesforce, they have their website, a responsive website. Now I do the same thing for this. Observe how it keeps changing according to the device, basically the browser size.
Yeah.
See, it entirely changed the alignment.
Yes.
So as I keep changing, see, completely changed again. So this is a responsive website. So this you can open in mobile apps or anywhere, and you can view the content very nicely. There's no need to zoom or scroll left and right and do all of that. It gets adjusted according to the screen size. So usually web applications, they're for a large displays, so which is not always good for the mobile apps or smart devices. So these are few advantages and disadvantages. There could be more points, but in general, to differentiate, these are few. Any questions so far?
No, ma'am.
Able to follow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's see the mobile apps, how they're different. Efficient communication. So here, for not all mobile applications, I don't say 100% of the mobile applications need internet connection always. So unless it's a dynamic data that you wanted to retrieve it from the server, there are few apps, without even internet connection. Once you download and install the apps, you can still use it. Like some games are there, you can
Yeah.
simply play.
Yes.
So I would say, when compared to web apps, where if there is no internet, 100%, there's no way you can browse it or you can use it. But for mobile apps, once they are installed, there are few apps still that work without internet. So that way it is slightly different when compared to web apps, and very easy to write. Basically, very easy to become a mobile app developer. The reason, we have three different in the market. One is the Android. So for Android, you had to be either already in Java. C, C++, only I would say 10 to 15% of the Android market where you code with C or C++. So if you don't know that, that's fine. But majority of the applications are written in Java. But last year, Google has announced a a new language for us, which is called Kotlin.
Yeah.
So you must be knowing that. Very good. So once you know with Java, it's very easy with Kotlin, not too much difficult, but it's nice that everybody started working on Kotlin. So I would suggest when we are done, you should also go through Kotlin as well. So any of these, if you know, you can become an Android developer. So very simple. Similarly, iOS, they have Objective-C, and there's also Swift. Swift is the new language. So the last 3-4 years, I think 3 years, everybody started working with Swift to develop iOS apps. So if you know any of these language, again, Swift is similar to JavaScript, like a scripting language. It's very easy. So if you know that, you can become an iOS developer. And if you know .NET, it's simple to become Windows mobile developer. But Windows market is very, very less. Hardly any
Yeah,
company is, supporting Windows. So yeah, I could say you can ignore this. But if you know any of these, you can become any of these developers. It's that simple. And we know these are specifically designed for smart devices, the mobile apps. You can also have apps for your desktop and laptops as well, like how we have desktop applications. But mobile apps generally for tablets and phones. But today we have also got for smart devices and TVs as well. But yeah, these are specifically for touch screen devices. Then, as I mentioned, you can interact with all the local resources of a device. You can go into contacts, you can make phone calls, video calls, messages, change the orientations, navigation. There are a lot of things that you can do from the mobile app and control your device as well. So that way advanced than web apps. A lot of GUI controls. So today, at least from the last 3 years of Android, so every version they've been introducing a lot of UI controls for us. And if you compare the applications like 4 to 5 years back and today's Android applications, they're way more advanced in terms of performance and in terms of UI. So very, very attractive. There are a lot of things that you can do and make your apps attractive. So yeah, many GUI controls. Coming to the disadvantage, I won't say these, disadvantage, but slightly difficult. One is to difficult manage updates. So what this point here is, like a web app, as soon as you refresh the browser, you get the updates immediately. But here with the mobile apps, if you have the phone settings automatic updates enabled, then whenever there is an update from the company, you get the latest update of the application and you can see the latest content always. But sometimes not all of them will have the settings enabled. So in that case, unless you go to Play Store and find out if there is an update, or if somebody tells you, okay, did you take the latest update, this app is so cool, if somebody says like that, that's when you go and update. So that means there is some manual task that you have to do in order to get the updates. For us it might be very easy to get the updates and all that, but think about our parents. It might be a little difficult for them
Yeah.
to understand also. So it's not that easy to manage the updates when compared to web apps. So that's the point here. And the next is no universal access. So in this context, it is not about the internet and all that. It's slightly different. So in the mobile market, you need to understand two things. One is the native app development, hybrid app development.
Yeah.
You must have seen positions with these two different things,
Yeah. These days.
right?
I just
Okay.
spoken with my friend. He's in India, and he told me the same. And try to learn hybrid. Native is not good these days, so he told me same like that. Actually, I supposed to send a message here. I typed, what is the difference between hybrid and native?
Super. So let's discuss that now. Okay. Slowly, I would say maybe after 5-6 years, hybrid might be the point, but not at this point of Android development. Okay, first let me say what is hybrid and what is native, and you will see these two positions in the market. Hybrid very less, native most of the time. But what is the difference? Okay, now when you have a hybrid application developed, you can have the same app run on an Android device, iOS, Windows, or a BlackBerry, any device. It works
Mm-hmm.
on any device, but the experience will be almost like a website, like a web app. It
Okay.
won't be that high performance. There won't be many UI controls, so it won't be that great. But again, I'll come to this point. uh, what native apps is, whenever you develop for a environment, for if you're developing an app for Android, that means your app will work only on Android device. If
Yeah.
you're developing for iOS, only for iOS devices. Similarly for Windows. So there is no cross-platform support if you're a native app developer. So you're strictly, abiding to only that particular environment or a OS. Hybrid case is different. One app, all the devices support. But if you see why the market for native is more, why all companies, hybrid is very simple. Only one app, all the
Yeah.
platforms means less number of people, you know, just one app, maintaining is easy. But it has the disadvantage that you cannot properly see the performance, the UI controls. So that's why not all companies go for hybrid. With native, even though the cost is more, number of people more, maintenance is
Mhm.
high, they still go for it because for the advantages that it has got, high performance and all that. So that's why the native market is more. And what we are going to learn in this training is completely native app development.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're applying for positions also, you have to apply for native app positions.
Okay.
Okay, now coming to your point, why your friend has suggested hybrid. Previously, what we were using hybrid is with maybe a combination of HTML, CSS, PhoneGap, Cordova. There are different libraries, and it was
Mhm.
reducing the performance a lot. But today,
Okay.
hybrid, maybe it's been only a year or two that slowly companies are starting to use React Native.
Yeah.
So React Native is completely different. It's from Facebook. It's again a scripting language, and it's very different from what we are learning now. But
Mm-hmm.
if you develop with React Native, you can exactly have the native experience and only one single application for all the platforms. But not all companies are into React Native. They still wanted native application development only. So that's why we still have jobs, and we still have this
Yeah.
training going on.
If we develop through React, can we upload in the three stores like Android,
Yeah,
iOS?
yeah,
Okay.
you can do that.
Okay.
But I am not like 100% into React Native, so I can't give you, all the answers for it. But
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. No
one
problem.
app you can just deploy in all of the stores. Yeah. And also not just mobile apps, the same can be used for web apps also.
Okay.
So basically what companies have started doing is they're developing components which can be used across platforms.
Okay.
So like in a home screen, say there is some small UI that is similar in all the platforms and also web app. So they just develop one component and that can be used in all of these three.
Okay.
Slowly they are starting doing it, so that's why I'm saying maybe in 2-3 years down the line, maybe we can get React Native more and more number of companies might start using it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for any of these you wanted to switch to, if you know at least one initially perfectly, then it's very
Mm-hmm.
easy to switch. You can
Okay.
easily switch to iOS, you can easily go to React. All you need is read the documentations and try to understand. It will be easy. Okay. Any other questions before we move on?
No.
Okay. So now let's see about the market competitors, Android and iOS. So first we'll see how you can install the apps. So if you want an Android app, so obviously you need a Play Store. You need to go to Play Store and search for it, download and install it. And you also have Amazon App Store. Or you can simply use an APK file. So APK is our executable file. So when you run the app, that's what it gets generated. So even if you just share that over an email, anybody who's having an Android device can download and install it. It's that simple. For iOS apps, there's only App Store, and only from App Store you can download and install it. I don't think, I don't know what their executable file is, but I'm not sure if you can share that file and install it. But most of the case, it's only App Store from where you can install it. Then, if you wanted to, publish the apps for Android, you need to open a Play Store developer account, which is $25, and it is for lifetime. And you can develop as many apps as you want, and you can publish them. And there is no need of any approval from Google to deploy your app. All you have to do is just fill up the required content and have the APK file. That's all. It will be published, and within 4 hours, it will be available to the users. Now, when coming to iOS, they also have their developer account, but it is $99 and it's every year. So every year you have to renew it. And also, when you wanted to publish the app, you need to get the approval from Apple. So Apple is going to review your app, maybe according to their standards and all that. Once it's fulfilled, that's when it will approve and it will be published. If there is anything that's caught in the review, they'll send us the back and you have to again modify it and send them. So that is a little tedious there, but any company who is publishing their iOS app, they need to get the approval, not just the company, any individual. And coming to the programming language, as I said, Java and Kotlin, like few percent C and C++. Then for iOS, Objective-C and Swift, any of these languages. For Android, again, the development environment is very simple and easy to set up. So all you need is any laptop, Windows, Mac, Linux, Solaris also supports, but Windows and MacBooks. If you just have that, all you need is download Android Studio and you can start working on it. But for iOS, you need only MacBooks. Their Xcode works only in MacBook. So that's a little difficult for people who can't afford MacBooks. Then Android is open source and iOS is not. This is an important point to understand. So what exactly is open source? Any idea?
Yeah, we can directly use and no need to pay anything.
Exactly, to some point. Anything that you wanted to add on?
Suppose Java is a open source and no need to pay anyone. When it comes to Android, not Android, it's Adobe. Those are premium tools. I mean, those are not open source.
Okay. Yeah, to some extent, you're right. Thanks for that. But let me explain more. So when anything is open source, that means anybody can start simply using it, as you said. There's no need to pay. And also, whoever has made it open source, they can take contributions from others as well. So suppose now Google has made it open source. Now, if you wanted to contribute anything to Android OS with your knowledge, you can definitely do it. And also, yeah, you can use it like however you want. That's why since Android is open source, today if you see the market, all the mobile manufacturers, they have Android as the OS. Do you see any other device in the market apart from Apple having iOS as their operating system? No, right?
No.
Only Apple has got. Because it's not open source. They don't sell it to anybody or they don't give access to anybody. Nobody can contribute as well. So only Apple can do any updates or any changes, any contributions, only they can do it. So that's about open source, and Android is one. And that's why your whatever apps that you develop, it'll be worked on all these mobile manufacturers. So we have got huge market because if you compare not just the United States, but the entire world, lots of Android devices that are cheap and many people use Android, apart from United States, and India is going crazy about iOS now. But all the other different countries, they use Android devices a lot. So if you develop an app, there will be, if you have a good concept and a unique concept, if people start recognizing it, they'll download it. So you will have more number of users because the Android market is huge and compared to iOS. iOS only in the States or maybe top countries, but not all the countries.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are few differences that you might want to know between the market competitors. Any questions there?
No, we are good right now.
Okay. Okay, so I got a question from Madhu. Can you explain about components and libraries? For sure, we have a slide for libraries, probably somewhere here.
So no problem, ma'am. You can explain later.
So I'll do it then. So first we'll see what exactly Android is now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is Android? Any answers? Okay, no problem. So I've seen many people, who are with maybe zero knowledge of Android. Uh, I've been seeing them talking Android as a programming language because it always goes in pair with Java. So they might think like, advanced Java or something like that. But that's not true. It's an operating system basically for how we have Windows as an operating system for all our laptops, PCs, and all of that. So Android initially it was an operating system for smartphones, for mobile devices. It is one of the operating system. So why do we need an operating system? So now if you have a physical device, right, and if you have software to that physical device, now this software, whatever keys or options that are there, if you wanted to communicate or click on any of these and have the communication happen, so how does the physical device understand what you're pressing on the software hardware? How is it able to understand whatever you're doing on the software? So there should be some intermediary between those two and help in the total communication. So basically operating system does that. So whatever you do on the software, it basically understands and will try to communicate to the hardware components, and that's how in turn you get the response back. So that's the operating system, and previously we had only for our personal computers, laptops and all that, but again with smartphone evolution, the same Windows is being used for Windows smartphones. Same iOS, whatever you are using for MacBooks is being used for iPhones and iPads. Similarly, Android also you're using for smartphones. And today, not just smartphones, tablets, wearable devices, TVs. So for all of these, as an operating system, you're using Android. So it's not a programming language. It's just an OS. And on top of it, if you wanted to develop the apps, that's when you use a programming language. Till last year, we were using Java majorly, but now it is a mix and match of Java and Kotlin. And also, as I mentioned, it's an open source platform. So anybody can start taking Android as their OS and they can start using it. So operating system will have core and kernels. So basically these two are different layers. So the kernel is the internal layer of an operating system and core is the outside one. So the internal kernel, it runs with Linux. So that takes care of all the drivers, the process, memory management, and all the networking that happens inside. So that will take care of it. So again, many people thinks that Android is another Linux distribution. It is not true. It is not a programming language also. So that you have to remember. And now, as I mentioned, to develop the applications, you use any of these programming languages. And with the software development kit, where you have all the libraries that you just asked for, you get all the libraries inside this kit and you can use them and develop the apps.
Okay.
Okay, so that's about Android. Now we'll see the history. So in 2003, that's when Andy Rubin and his team, basically they were part of Android Incorporation company. They started off developing this OS in 2003. But later seeing their work and their improvements and what they've been doing, because till then we didn't have, proper OS for a smartphone. Even smartphones were not into picture. We were using the normal devices. So Google has seen that, this could be a very good OS for the latest, for the coming trend. Can you mute your end, Madhu?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, so Google has seen that, from 2003, whatever they have developed, they've seen the future of this OS. So they bought in 2005 this company. So this team, Andy, his full name is Andrew, I think. Andy Rubin and his team are still with Google. Till Sundar Pichai has taken the mobile division, the head of the mobile division. Andy was only leading it. So all the improvements, the different versions that came up in Android is all his work and his team's work. And then Sundar Pichai has taken in lead. It's been, I think, 4 to 5 years now, or 3 to 4 years. But yeah, in 2005 is when Google bought it. Till then, they were just doing the improvements and everything that an OS has to have. Then in 2007, so there is a consortium, basically a group, which is called as Open Handset Aliens. And as part of this group, there are all different technical companies, not just Google, but there are a lot of other companies. You can see there are few listed here. Out of this, there are mobile manufacturers, there are different other technical companies. There are so many others involved here. So all these companies collectively, they came to a decision that in 2007, they made Android as open source, because it's hard that every company can develop their own operating system. It's very difficult because once you develop, you have to again maintain it. It's not that you just develop and leave it. Every year or every now and then you have to make improvements because the technology is changing. It's moving very fast. So you have to go according to the latest trend. So that means you need to do a lot of improvements. So not all companies can take that up, right? But every company, there are so many companies that wants to manufacture these smart devices. So how does that go in line? So they all came into a decision that to make Android as a open source. So all these companies, they can manufacture their hardware devices and they can have the operating system Android. So that's why if you see in the market, there are a lot of devices, HTC, Samsung, Sony, Motorola. There is Nexus, which is from Google, and OnePlus One. There are a lot of other China mobiles that still runs on Android. There are a lot of them. So all of these, they take Android as the OS and they change it according to their company standards. So even though all of them use Android, they don't look 100% same. Their user interfaces are different, their options are different. Some perform excellently, some are slow. So it all depends on how they change it once they take Android. So Nexus devices are different, Motorola devices are different, the performance is different, Samsung is different. All these devices, they just take Android and they change it according to their standards, whatever the company has got. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so next what we'll see is the different versions. So as I mentioned, anybody who starts off thinking about a big company or anything like that, when they come up with a product, they don't sit with one. They just try to improve it every now and then, or every possibility there is for improvement, they do it. So that means every time they bring up a new version of the product, basically they'll name the version or they give the version number. So that's how they can differentiate between the old ones and the new ones. So Android also has got the same way. Every year actually they're giving us a new version. So whenever there is a new version, that means obviously it is an enhancement of the old one, some new things or enhancements for the previous ones. So something is different from the old one. That's why they have introduced a new version. So every year in June is when Android releases a version. And by the time of October, November, you get a stable version of the, whatever they introduce. So that means you can start using from October, November, whenever they have a stable version. So with Android, traditionally, not just the version number, they also have version names. And it is after a desert. So every year, they're going in an alphabetical order. So right now, we are with O, and yeah, we're till N. And oh no, sorry, we are till P. Pi is the latest version last year, 2018. So this year it's going to be Q. We're not sure what they're going to name, but let me tell you, from 2007 when they made it open source, so that back then it was just alpha and beta. But from 2009, they started giving names every alphabet. So cupcake, donut, eclair, froyo, gingerbread, honeycomb, ice cream sandwich, jelly bean, Kit Kat. There's lollipop, marshmallow, nougat, Oreo, pie. So 5 more after Kit Kat, lollipop. Let me just write it. So these are the latest, pie and Oreo are the latest. So I started off the classes when we were in Kit Kat. So now we are at Pi. So that's why my sheets are not updated. So basically, so we are at Pi now. So every version has got a name and also a version number. So 1.5, 1.6, 2.0. I think Pi is around 9.0. I guess so. Yeah, 9.0, I think. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9. So yeah, those are the different versions that we have got, and each of them have different version numbers as well. So now if you wanted to see on which version your phone or your smart device is running, all you have to do is go to the settings and see the Android about phone or about device. You can see the Android version that your device is running on. So that's basically the OS version that your device is running. So that's about the different versions that we have got. And so every version, basically, we also denote them with an API level. So API is nothing but application interface. So it's a package that we get in Android with all the latest things like the classes, interfaces, whatever XML components that we have, different permissions that we need. So every version, they come with the API level. So that's just the package. And you can see they're also named or numbered with a level. So starting from 1.0 to the latest, I think it's 28 or 29. So you can see the API level numbers. So every version, there's a number to it. So if somebody asks you, what is the version that you're supporting, you can just mention the level numbers. So anybody as an Android developer can understand the API level. Along with the version, they can also understand the API level. So it's easy to communicate in terms of API level. And if you see in the list here, out of all the blue ones, there's one here that's grayed out, 4.4, and it also has got W. So this is the version. Basically, these are also the SDK versions. So SDK is nothing but a development kit, as I mentioned. So every time they release a new version, they basically give a SDK kit for that version. So you can update your apps to it. So 4.4W is the version for KitKat Watch, and it's only for wearables. So if you wanted to develop the apps for wearables, then you're supposed to use this SDK version and develop it. All the other ones you can use for phones, tablets, TVs, and all of them. But for wearables alone, it's 4.4W. I'm not sure if anything has been changed, but that was the last one that we were using. Is it clear so far?
Yes.
Okay, so since we are almost, out of time, I wanted to stop till here.
Okay.
I have another class from 9:30 to 10:30.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
tomorrow, what we'll do is we'll cover the Android architecture, and also I'll start explaining you the project structure in Android Studio.
Okay, ma'am.
So how is it so far? Able to understand the flow?
Yeah, it's very clear.
Okay. Awesome then. So what I'll do now is I'll share you all the Java links, and also I'll share you the recording, today's recording, along with the Android PPT.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
Okay. Thank
sounds
you.
good. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, 8:30 to 9:30. I'll send you the request as I've sent today.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Right.
Have a good
Bye.
one.
Yeah.